So it is Tuesday, June 16th, 2026. And if you read the brand new piece in Tech Reader magazine.
Oh, yeah. Why AI's most idealistic labs were forced to choose profit.
Right, that one.
Yeah.
If you read it, you are immediately confronted with this just like really fascinating paradox. Because you can hire the most visionary engineers in the world, right? You can draft up these incredibly noble blueprints to build a company that prioritizes humanity over money.
Which they absolutely did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But eventually you hit this unyielding physical brick wall. And that wall is just, pure arithmetic.
It really is. I mean, the sheer physical gravity of what it costs to compute artificial intelligence, it's just fundamentally incompatible with those original blueprints.
Right.
And this article, it kind of looks past all the daily headlines and actually examines the underlying physics and, the financial structures of the tech sector right now.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive. Okay, let's unpack this. We are exploring how the two most idealistic artificial intelligence companies on the planet, OpenAI and Anthropic, how they started with this noble mission to protect humanity, but ultimately mutated into, well, the very things they were trying to avoid.
Yeah, the exact same corporate structures.
Right, and if you're logging into one of these tools today, to draft an email at work or analyze a spreadsheet, you might think the safety guardrails protecting your data were designed by, philosophers.
Yeah, right, or ethicists.
Exactly, but really they are being dictated by a $100 billion server bill.
Exactly. I mean, the rules governing the AI you interact with every day, they aren't actually being decided by visionary founders anymore. They're being shaped by the crushing weight of massive capital requirements.
Yeah.
So the ideals might still exist on paper, but the operational reality is just entirely different now.
And we are seeing that reality play out in real time right now, which actually brings us to the inciting incident of this article.
Yeah, the big news.
Right. So just 4 days ago, on the evening of June 12th, 2026, a letter was delivered to Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei, and it came directly from the Commerce Department. And it wasn't exactly a polite request.
No, it was an explicit directive. They were invoking national security authority.
Right. The order was to immediately suspend their newly released models. That's Claude Fable 5 and Mythos 5 for all foreign nationals globally. And incredibly, that even included Anthropic's own non-citizen employees.
Oh, which is wild.
It is. And these models, they'd only been publicly available for 3 days.
Yeah.
But because Anthropic couldn't just magically re-engineer their massive infrastructure to filter their global user base by citizenship in real time.
Right, you can't just flip a switch for that.
Exactly. So their only option was compliance through total shutdown. As of today, right now, those models are still completely offline.
Yeah.
It's honestly like opening a massive state-of-the-art public library, and 3 days later, the government demands you check every single person's passport at the door.
Right, and
you don't have the security staff to do that, so you just have to board up the windows and lock everyone out.
It was basically a blunt force solution to a really complex regulatory demand. I mean, if you cannot surgically remove access for a specific demographic instantaneously, total suspension is your literally only move.
But I'm genuinely stuck on something here. If this AI is essentially a highly advanced text and code generator, why is the Department of Defense stepping in with a national security order?
Right.
What exactly are they trying to use it for, and why does that involve the Commerce Department?
Well, what's fascinating here is the sheer irony of the situation, honestly.
Okay. How so?
According to the reporting, this government action was actually triggered by Anthropic's largest investor.
Wait, really?
Yeah, an investor who actually holds a seat on their board.
Oh, wow.
So the Department of Defense wanted to utilize the new Claude models for specific high-stakes defense use cases.
Okay.
But Anthropic operates on this core safety framework they call constitutional AI.
Right, I've heard of that.
And this framework was explicitly designed to prevent the model from generating outputs for certain applications, which ostensibly included the very things the defense sector wanted to do.
Wait. How does an AI even have a constitution? Is that just a PDF of rules the programmers, type into the system?
Not exactly, no.
How does it actually work mechanically?
It's actually a really fascinating structural methodology. So traditionally, to make an AI safe, companies relied heavily on human feedback.
Okay, like people reading it.
Exactly. Thousands of human workers reading the AI's answers and manually grading them to correct bad behavior.
Gosh, that sounds tedious.
It is. Human grading is incredibly slow, it's expensive, and it's highly subjective.
Right.
Constitutional AI basically flips the script. It trains the model to evaluate its own outputs against a set of explicit foundational principles.
Like a literal constitution.
Exactly.
So the AI basically polices itself.
Precisely. You give the AI a charter of human values, and during its training phase, you force it to critique and revise its own responses based on that charter.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and it does this before it ever finalizes its learning. So you are mechanically building the alignment into the architecture from day one.
That's wild.
Yeah, Anthropic wanted to prove that if you do this, you don't have to sacrifice capability for safety.
Right.
You get a highly intelligent model that reliably polices itself, completely without a human in the loop.
I mean, that sounds like a super elegant solution. But to really understand how Anthropic got backed into this specific corner with the government and their investors, we kind of have to look at why they built this constitution in the first place.
Yeah, the backstory is crucial here.
Right, because Anthropic actually started back in 2021 when Dario and Daniela Amodei, along with several colleagues, left OpenAI.
Mm-hmm.
And they left specifically because they felt the pressure to commercialize the technology was vastly outpacing the focus on safety.
Exactly. They identified this fundamental tension.
They wanted to build a lab where safety wasn't just an afterthought, whereas the actual foundation.
Yeah, they saw that the race to be first to market was compromising the ability to fully understand these systems.
Right.
So constitutional AI was their counter-narrative to that race.
Right, but building that counter-narrative requires an unbelievable amount of capital.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you can't just conceptualize an AI constitution on a whiteboard.
Mm-hmm.
You have to physically train the neural network.
Which takes massive resources.
Exactly. And training what they call frontier AI, which just means AI models that are pushing the absolute cutting-edge limits of current physics and computer science.
Yeah.
It's staggeringly expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Anthropic couldn't do it alone. So first they took funding from Google.
Mm-hmm.
Then Amazon stepped in with $4 billion, and then later another $8 billion.
And this right here is exactly where the structural mutation begins.
Yeah.
When you take billions of dollars from massive publicly traded tech giants, the dynamic of your organization fundamentally shifts.
Of course it does.
Yeah, no matter how pure your intentions are.
Which leads to the climax of this arc. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
In April of 2026, Amazon committed over $100 billion for AWS infrastructure for Anthropic.
Just an incredible number.
$100 billion. And just to be clear for everyone, AWS stands for Amazon Web Services,
Right.
which is this massive global network of physical cloud computing servers.
Right.
Without AWS, Anthropic's models literally cannot run.
No, they'd be dead in the water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now, the company that was founded specifically to be a safe alternative to the big tech ecosystem
Yeah.
is entirely entangled in one of the biggest financial relationships in the history of Silicon Valley.
It's wild.
And as of May 2026, the New York Times reported that Anthropic is actually preparing for a fall IPO.
It is the ultimate structural paradox.
How so?
Well, Anthropic's primary cloud provider, the actual entity physically supplying the millions of processors required to run these models, became its largest financial backer, secured a board seat, and is now deeply intertwined with defense contracts. So you have a laboratory founded with an academic safety-first mission being seamlessly integrated into the infrastructure of a conventional tech behemoth.
Right. They just get absorbed.
Exactly. And prepping for an initial public offering means you are formally inviting in the unyielding pressures of quarterly earnings, shareholder returns, and public market expectations.
You can't escape that.
No, you can't. The original mission hasn't been abandoned outright, but it has basically been completely subsumed by operational reality.
Wait a second. Taking billions of dollars from a massive cloud computing provider while trying to stay perfectly independent. I mean, this sounds exactly like the trap OpenAI fell into a few years ago.
Absolutely.
It's almost a total mirror image.
It really is a textbook repetition of the exact same phenomena.
Yeah.
When OpenAI was founded back in 2015, their structure was incredibly deliberate.
Right. They're a nonprofit, right?
Yes. They organized as a strict, pure nonprofit. The founding documents explicitly stated that their sole purpose was to ensure that artificial general intelligence AGI would benefit all of humanity.
And we should probably clarify AGI, because that term gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah, good point.
We're not talking about a chatbot that writes good emails here.
No.
AGI means an artificial intelligence system that can equal or completely surpass human capabilities across virtually all economically valuable cognitive tasks.
Exactly.
It is the absolute holy grail of this tech.
Precisely. And they explicitly set it up as a nonprofit to signal to the world that the development of AGI was way too important to be governed by shareholders seeking a return on investment.
But then they hit the exact same arithmetic wall Anthropic did.
Yes, they did.
Because by 2019, OpenAI realized the nonprofit structure simply could not solicit enough philanthropic donations to buy the physical compute power they needed to stay at the frontier.
Right, you can't fund a supercomputer with bake sales.
Right. So they invent this highly unusual hybrid structure, a capped profit subsidiary.
It was such a fascinating attempt to have it both ways.
Yeah.
The idea was to create a subsidiary company that could legally take outside investment from massive corporations and offer them a capped financial return.
Okay.
But crucially, this for-profit subsidiary would remain under the absolute oversight and legal control of the original nonprofit board of directors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They thought they could attract the billions needed to build the models while maintaining the ideological purity of the nonprofit governance.
And it worked to attract the money.
It sure did.
Microsoft came in with $1 billion initially, and eventually their total commitment topped $13 billion.
Yep.
And that was largely in the form of their Azure cloud computing servers.
Right, the compute.
But trying to have it both ways eventually just snapped. We all remember the infamous November 2023 board crisis.
Oh, yes.
The nonprofit board, which on paper had total authority, decided to fire CEO Sam Altman, citing concerns about his candor and the rapid pace of commercial development.
Right. And on paper, the governance structure worked exactly as it was designed to.
Technically, yeah.
The nonprofit board perceived a drift from the core mission, and they exercised their legal authority to halt it.
But the reality of this situation was completely different.
Entirely.
Within days, Altman was reinstated as CEO, and the board members who had voted to oust him, they were the ones who were gone.
Yeah, they were out.
It perfectly highlights the flaw in the design. Honestly, it reminds me of a substitute teacher trying to give detention to the high school's biggest financial donor.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Like, technically, yes, the substitute teacher has the legal authority in that classroom. The rules say they are in charge.
Right.
But the moment they try to use that authority against the person funding the new gymnasium, reality steps in. The school board just fires the substitute.
That is an excellent way to conceptualize the mechanical failure of that board structure.
Yeah.
Because the November 2023 crisis definitively proved that formal authority cannot withstand structural dependence.
Wow.
The nonprofit had the legal right to fire the CEO, but the operating entity was entirely dependent on Microsoft's physical infrastructure and capital to exist.
Right.
So when the capital rebelled against the governance, the capital won.
And that basically brings us to the end of the OpenAI arc. Because where are they in 2026?
It's totally different now.
Last year, in 2025, they formally filed to restructure as a conventional for-profit company. The governance link between the nonprofit mission and the actual operating entity was severed.
Completely cut.
Now, in 2026, they filed for an IPO. The nonprofit entity still exists, sure, and it holds a financial stake, but it has absolutely zero operational control over what the company actually does.
Yeah, the transformation is complete.
It's crazy.
The mission of benefiting humanity hasn't necessarily been erased, but as the Tech Reader article so astutely puts it, that mission now just lives on as language in a filing.
Right, just words on a page.
Exactly. It is no longer the animating force of the organization. It is merely a historical artifact attached to a publicly traded commercial enterprise.
Okay, so if the idealists, OpenAI and Anthropic,
Yeah.
if they both inevitably mutate into profit-driven machines, I have to ask about everyone else.
Yeah.
Like, is the whole AI industry having this kind of identity crisis?
Well, looking at the control group, the rest of the field is crucial here because it provides the contrast we need.
Okay.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the source article lists several major competitors operating at the frontier.
Right.
You have Google with Gemini. You have Microsoft's Copilot. You have XAI, founded by Elon Musk, which makes Grok. And then you have international players like Mistral in France and DeepSeek in China.
So do these companies face the same structural tension? Because, Elon Musk famously left the OpenAI board years ago over disagreements about commercializing the technology.
Right.
But then he immediately turned around and started XAI with explicit commercial intent right out of the gate.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it actually healthier for the consumer when a company doesn't pretend to be saving the world?
Well, none of these companies face the mission drift that OpenAI and Anthropic suffered, primarily because there was never an alternative mission to drift from.
Oh, interesting.
Right. Look at Google. Google DeepMind does incredible, serious scientific work.
Sure.
But it conducts that work inside a publicly traded megacorporation that has had fiduciary obligations to its shareholders for decades long, before AI was even a focal point.
Right, they've always been a for-profit business.
Exactly. When Google makes a decision about deploying Gemini, there is no existential crisis about a nonprofit mission.
Right, so Microsoft's massive investment in OpenAI was just like a strategic acquisition of capability.
Yeah.
It wasn't an ideological commitment to saving humanity.
Not at all.
They're one of the most profitable tech companies on Earth, and they act exactly like it.
Exactly. And when you look at state-adjacent labs like Mistral in France or DeepSeek in China, their capital sources are deeply aligned with broader national and economic interests from day one.
Okay, that makes sense.
There is no tension between the money and the mission because the money is the mission.
Wow.
The reason we are dissecting mission drift at OpenAI and Anthropic is that they are the only two that genuinely attempted to build a firewall between capital and capability.
So why can't that firewall hold?
Yeah.
Like, why couldn't a nonprofit just raise enough philanthropic money or, I don't know, fundamentally optimize their code so it doesn't require so much brute horsepower?
I see what you mean.
Why is this a fundamental arithmetic problem that they couldn't just engineer their way out of?
It really comes down to the actual physics of how large language models are trained.
Okay.
You cannot simply optimize the code to run on a smaller machine. Training a frontier neural network involves adjusting billions, sometimes trillions of parameters simultaneously.
Trillions, wow.
Yeah, trillions. And doing that requires massive parallel processing. So you aren't executing tasks sequentially like a traditional computer.
Right, one after the other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead, you are calculating these vast matrices of probabilities all at once.
And to do that physically, you need a very specific type of hardware.
Yes. You need tens of thousands of highly specialized GPU's graphics processing units running continuously at maximum capacity.
You're like nonstop.
24 hours a day for months at a time, just for a single training run.
That's insane.
We are no longer talking about server rooms in a corporate basement. We are talking about vast, sprawling data centers that consume the electrical output of small cities.
Oh my God.
You also have the cooling systems required to keep those chips from literally melting, and the astronomical compensation required to hire the rare engineering talent capable of orchestrating it all.
So the infrastructure required to even attempt to build AGI is monumental. It's not just a software problem. It's a heavy industry problem.
Precisely. It is heavy industry. And none of it is cheap. The article points out Anthropic's $100 billion commitment to AWS.
Right, that huge number.
That is not an exaggeration or some frivolous expense. That is quite literally the physical price of admission to stay competitive at the frontier of this technology. You simply cannot cheat the physics of compute.
So what does this all mean? Like, this isn't a story about evil founders lying to us or visionary leaders suddenly deciding to sell out their morals for a payday.
No, not at all. And that is the most crucial takeaway from this deep dive. The source material makes this explicitly clear. This is purely a story about arithmetic.
Yeah.
When the physical cost of creating a product fundamentally exceeds what a mission-driven philanthropic structure can realistically raise.
The structure has to change.
Exactly. The organizational structure has to mutate to accommodate the cost.
Because an investor writing a multi-billion-dollar check isn't doing it out of charity.
Exactly. They have strict fiduciary duties. An investor deploying billions of dollars has legal obligations to their limited partners, to their own corporate shareholders, and in the case of defense integrations, to the federal government.
Right.
Those obligations don't magically evaporate just because the AI company they are investing in has a beautifully written safety charter.
Right.
A nonprofit can perhaps absorb one massive funding round. But eventually, the scale of the capital required to buy that hardware becomes completely incompatible with a governance structure designed to resist commercial pressure.
So just summarizing the landscape as of today,
Yeah.
June 16th, 2026,
Yeah.
we have two companies that started with the deep conviction that artificial intelligence was simply too dangerous and too important to be left to the free market.
Mm-hmm.
But today, both are entirely governed by it. OpenAI is filing for an IPO. fully transitioning to a for-profit entity where its original mission is literally just a footnote.
Yeah.
And Anthropic's most advanced models are currently shut down globally due to a national security directive triggered by their own investor.
Which is still crazy to think about.
While they themselves prepare to enter the public market. Both of these idealistic labs are now driven by capital requirements, investor expectations, and the unyielding demands of the public market.
And when you log on and use Claude or ChatGPT today, you really need to understand the structural forces shaping them.
Right.
The safety guardrails that determine what the AI will or will not do for you and the capabilities it possesses, they are ultimately being dictated by a $100 billion data center bill.
Right.
And the absolute necessity to generate a return on that investment. It is no longer just about a philosophical charter. It is about the realities of massive industrial scale compute.
Which leaves us with a totally new, genuinely provocative question to ponder.
Oh.
If the sheer, unyielding physics of compute costs makes it structurally impossible for an independent, mission-driven organization to survive at the frontier, are we just trapped?
That's the
Does our only hope for truly democratized AI lie in a completely different paradigm?
Like what?
Like decentralized open source models that are specifically designed to run collectively on millions of everyday smartphones and laptops.
Oh, wow.
Right. Bypassing the need for these $100 billion megacorporation servers entirely. Because if the centralized data center is the trap that kills idealism, maybe the only way to save the mission is to break the AI into pieces and hand it back to the people. Just something to think about.